I'm being joined by public affairs analyst and a legal practitioner, Vincent Otaopupu. Thank you so much, Mr. Otaopupu, for being here. Ajaero has been released from the custody of the DSS. Now, what are the potential reasons behind the DSS's detention of Ajaero, if we want to look at it holistically? And are we likely looking at a political pressure? Like you just had saying political repression, perceived threats to national security, or better still, disagreements over labor policies. What are your thoughts? What can you make out of all of this?
Okay, thank you for having me, and I thank you, our wonderful audience. First off, the arrest of Mr. Ajaero yesterday has provoked contentious issues and responses, and among scholars, the arrest came at a time that is not, quite not expected. Legally speaking, every citizen of Nigeria under Section 35 of the Constitution has right to personal liberty. The Constitution says, Section 35 of the Constitution, every person shall be entitled to his or personal liberty, and nobody shall be deprived of his or her personal liberty, save in the following conditions listed. That is when someone has committed offense and execution of an order of court. But subsection 35 sub 1c has which provides that the person liberty can be restrained for purposes of bringing the person before a court of law, or upon a person reasonable suspicion for someone who haven't committed a criminal offense. This particular philosophical construction of Section 35 sub 1c of the 1990 Constitution has been subject to, it is loose and roomy, and subject to multiple interpretation, such that the security agencies have hinged on this to abuse on rights of Nigerian citizens in most cases. Now, beyond the right of liberty of this Ajaero that has been breached, his right to freedom of movement, which is guaranteed under Section 41 sub 1 of the Constitution of Nigeria, because it guarantees the freedom of movement of every person is hereby guaranteed, including the right of egress and right of ingress, to go out of Nigeria and also to come back to Nigeria, including right to hold passport. So those rights have been infringed, and where right has been infringed, Section 46 of the Constitution says, he whose right has been infringed or is likely to be infringed should approach the court for redress. Because we say in law, ubi jus, ibi remedium. Where there is right, there is remedy. So he can exploit the provision of Section 46, where the rights have been infringed, to approach the court for redress. Now, the right to freedom of movement is quite encompassing. The right of liberty is quite encompassing. And apart from the constitutional provision I've listed, Article 7 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights also make a concomitant similar provision relates to dignity of persons within the periphery of Africa as a continent. Likewise, Section 12 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights also provided for right to movement. Now, this case has presented itself with some kind of characteristics with respect to cases that have been determined by the Supreme Court in the previous occasions. You remember that upholding the right to freedom of movement of Nigeria, the court and judiciary, in exercise of the inherent powers under Section 6 of Section 6A and B of the Constitution, has asserted assertively, that the right must be protected at all costs. In the case of Williams and Maja Kondomi, in the First Republic of 1960, Williams happens to be the legal advisor of Action Group. There was a protection order decree that was made to restrict him within the periphery 40 radius of 4 radius of his abode, his house. He was restricted from moving out from his house for whatever law within justifiable in a democratic society. The Supreme Court said no, it had breached his right to freedom of movement, like in this case of Ajaero. Now, the case of Sugar Badama versus the Federal Minister of Internal Affairs has also presented a similar characteristic with what we have at hand. In that case, Sugar Badama was a member of a Borno State House of Assembly then. He was deported to charge by the Minister of Internal Affairs then. He went to court and said, I'm a citizen of Nigeria by birth. How would they deport me to Chad that I'm no more a citizen of Nigeria? It breached my right to liberty and right to movement. Supreme Court upheld that and sustained his right and protected it and said the government acted in order to violate their powers, which constitutes a breach of the right to dignity of personal liberty and movement. Now, of similar characteristics to the case we have at hand is the case of Olisabakova versus DSS. Remember that Olisabakova, in one case, who happens to be a renowned constitutional lawyer and renowned senior advocate of Nigeria, happens to be the president of a NGO called Civil Liberty Organization, was to travel then, I think 1990 something, to travel then to Netherlands. He was invited by an NGO in Netherlands for international development and the convention or whatever. So he was at the Murtala Mohammed airport when the DSS officers benched on him and they confiscated his international passport and only asked him he cannot travel, that he should report to their office. The next day he reported to the office. They said the officer had to interrogate him. The director was not available. The next day again he came back. They kept telling him up and down, come tomorrow, come tomorrow. He approached the court. The High Court dismissed his application and said no, that because of the inscription written at the back of the international passport, this passport at all time remains the property of the federal government of Nigeria, that you don't have right to say that it is your property, as the case may be. The case was dismissed. But when he approached the Court of Appeal, as in the judicial characteristics penchant for lucidity and abiding passion for a clear thought, adumbrated that the constitutional right of Abakoba of ingress and ingress must be protected. That section 41, which has granted right of freedom of movement of all citizens, that the lower court was wrong to have distinguished between right to hold passport and right to movement. That right to hold passport is concomitant to hold right to personal of liberty, of movement. You cannot separate two of them. So that's what the Court of Appeal held. That is amount to breach of his right, that the inscription at the back of the passport cannot be used as a yardstick to deny it, as a reasonable suspicion to deny a person from holding passport, especially right to egress and ingress. His appeal, the DSS appealed to Supreme Court of Nigeria, and the appeal was dismissed, and Supreme Court said no, and affirmed judgment of the Court of Appeal and said that Section 5A of the Passport Miscellaneous Provision Act have provided a remedy of which the government can follow by cancellation, by withdrawal of the passport, not physically going to take somebody's passport by force, arbitrarily, without any justifiable cause or legal impute. So this goes in all ramifications for all purposes, in all ramifications with the case at hand of Ajaero, that he should also approach court, because it doesn't matter that they have arrested him and detained him for 15 minutes or 15 hours, as the case may be. Right. When an arrest has been made without a justifiable cause and it's wrong in law, it is wrong in law. And the fellow who's arrested can approach court for redress.
You've given us a broader explanation. I want to thank you for that and breaking it very, very incisively. But let me also ask, now we do hear that Joe Ajaero's passport has been seized, and he would need to bring himself forth to the DSS office whenever he's called upon. What do you think this would do, especially to the NLC, and not forgetting to civil service organizations that are indeed talking tough about this current administration and the decision that they've taken? Are you there? Okay. We seem to have a little network connectivity issues there, but of course, I'm sure. All right, Mr. Otapupu, I hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Did you get my question?
No, I didn't get your question.
Good. Let me reiterate once more. I said the passport, the NLC president's passport, has been seized, as we can also confirm, and he would be called upon by the DSS, and he needs to present himself whenever he's called upon. What do you think this would do to the NLC, and most importantly to other civil rights organizations who have been talking, and what impact do you think this would have going forward?
The seizure of his passport without a justifiable, reasonable cause, without judicial impute, constitutes a breach of his right to freedom of movement, like I've explained in the case of Olisabakova versus DSS. The Supreme Court have emphasized that the right to personal liberty, especially the right, section 35, sub 2 and 3. Sub 2 says that the person shall be entitled to a legal practitioner of his choice. He's not free to answer any question or make any statement without his lawyer. Then sub 3 says that the person shall be informed in a language he understands better the content and the fact leading to his arrest. He must be informed of his arrest. Now, the seizure of his passport constitutes that you have not concluded investigation, but you just want to stop him from traveling abroad. That is not welcome in a democratic society like ours. It constitutes arbitrary action of government just to cow, just to suppress, just to intimidate the citizens of Nigeria. And in a democratic society like ours, rule of law must not only triumph in the electoral system, but in our body politics. Government must begin to appreciate the fact that the people live for law, and the law regulates activities of government and man. And the rule of law also provides that government must respect the law and be subservient to the wills and capacities of the law. In the 1976 case of Marbury and Madison, the U.S. Supreme Court held that the rights of U.S. citizens are enshrined in the Constitution, and the government will not be addressed in higher apparition when the government failed to protect the rights of individuals.
All right, Mr.
So
Vincent.
the seizure of his passport proposes of him further investigation, or to enable him to report tomorrow, or to ask him to stop him from traveling abroad is wrong.
All right,
in the
Mr.
case
Vincent.
of Bull and Attorney General,
Mr. Vincent,
the Zimbabwe Supreme Court,
thank
even
you. Thank you for your time.
European Supreme Court has held that
thank you
the
so much,
practice of
Mr.
arresting
Vincent.
somebody to bring him for purposes of asking questions to interrogate him to give answers to offenses
I
is
think
wrong
we
in
want to
law.
say thank you. You've done justice explaining this, especially to our viewers. Thank you for your time, Mr. Vincent. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank
Great.
you.